All right, so today we've got a real mystery on our hands, one that involves some of the biggest names on the internet. We're talking about a stock price that suddenly crashed, a really confusing data deal, and a surprise culprit that you probably won't see coming. You see, all the headlines were screaming about Reddit and OpenAI, but the real story? Well, it's about someone else entirely, and it all kicked off with one single shocking number.
And this is it. It all started with this number, a sudden, sharp 14.4% drop. That's how much Reddit's stock price tumbled in just 5 days. It sent total shockwaves through the market, and you can bet investors were scrambling to figure out what on earth was going on. How could this happen so fast?
And this timeline just shows you how insane the drop was. On September 26, the stock is sitting pretty at over $240. Fast forward just 5 days to October 2nd, and bam, it's down around 205. That is a huge loss in value. And at first, everyone thought they knew exactly who to blame. Which brings us to our first section, what looked like a really clear-cut problem with ChatGPT. This was the story that was everywhere, the one that seemed to explain the whole mess. So, the first clue in this whole mystery popped up from some new data. Researchers started noticing that ChatGPT, one of the biggest AI tools out there, was suddenly citing Reddit way, way less in its answers. And that's a big deal because Reddit had become this go-to source for real human conversation in AI results. So, this drop in visibility, it was seen as a major blow to Reddit's value. But just when you think, okay, case closed, a new piece of information comes out that makes everything a whole lot weirder. And this is where we get to the really puzzling partnership. And here's the twist. OpenAI, the company that actually makes ChatGPT, has a direct deal where they pay Reddit for its data. So this is where the story gets really confusing, right? If OpenAI is paying for direct access to all of Reddit's content, why would its main product suddenly stop using it? It didn't add up at all. This is the million-dollar question. I mean, why would you pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet if you're not going to eat any of the food? It felt like a total contradiction, and it really suggested that the first story, that this was all about OpenAI and Reddit having some kind of falling out, was missing a huge piece of the puzzle. And that missing piece, well, it turns out to be a completely different tech giant. Everyone was focused on Reddit and OpenAI, but the real player pulling the strings behind the curtain, it was Google.
Analyst Kevin Indig put it perfectly. He said, "The news is all about Reddit and OpenAI. Or so it seems. In my view, it's really about Google." And that quote just completely reframes the whole problem. This wasn't about a partnership gone bad. It was about a subtle, almost invisible change made by the biggest search engine on the planet.
So what did Google actually do? Well, the answer is in a tiny technical change that had massive, massive ripple effects all across the internet. It all came down to a tactic to control how its data was being scraped and used. It all started right here with this little piece of code, question num equals 100. For years, data companies could just add this to a Google search URL to see 100 results instead of the usual 10. This was an absolute goldmine for companies that scrape Google's results to train AI models, the same companies that OpenAI buys its data from. But then, around September 10th, Google just quietly shut it down. Poof, gone. And that one little change set off this wild chain reaction. Okay, follow me here. First, Google gets rid of that parameter. Second, the data scrapers that feed all these AI models can now only see the top 10 or 20 results, not the top 100. And third, and this is the crucial part, because so much of Reddit's content ranks outside that top 20, ChatGPT just stopped seeing it. It's not that OpenAI didn't want the data, it's that its data suppliers literally couldn't find it as easily anymore. And this number, wow, this number shows you exactly why that was so devastating for Reddit. Almost 58% of Reddit's keywords rank outside the top 20 search results. So by cutting off access to anything beyond the first couple of pages, Google basically made a huge chunk of Reddit invisible to the entire AI ecosystem. So this one move from Google didn't just hurt Reddit, it totally reshaped the AI search landscape. Because when one huge source of information kind of vanishes, another one has to rise up and take its place. And here's who benefited. You can see it clear as day. As Reddit's visibility in ChatGPT's answers just plummeted, Wikipedia shot straight up. The AI needed a reliable source of info. And with a lot of Reddit now hidden from view, it just turned to the next best thing.
So why Wikipedia? Well, it all comes down to a key difference. Reddit's amazing because it's messy, it's conversational, it's real people talking. But that means it often ranks lower. Wikipedia, on the other hand, always ranks in those top results. Its content is structured, it's clean, and it's super easy for an AI to understand. It was the perfect low-cost replacement.
Okay, so let's zoom out, because this isn't just a story about Reddit, Google, and OpenAI. It's actually a sneak peek into the new power dynamics of the internet and how information is being controlled and valued in this new age of AI.
And you can see several other big trends happening at the same time. Reddit is trying to adapt, right? They're proposing new pricing deals. OpenAI is trying to get closer to you, the user, by launching direct checkout. But here's the most important thing to remember. Despite this whole shakeup, user-generated content, UGC, is still king. It's incredibly valuable to these AI models.
In fact, if you look at the data from just before this whole thing happened, you can see just how dominant user content is. Yeah, Wikipedia is number 1, but right behind it at number 2 is Reddit. And at number 4, you have G2, the software review site. This just goes to show you that real human experience and opinions are still the secret sauce for these AI systems.
Which leaves us with this final, really important question. This whole episode proves how one quiet technical change by a single company can fundamentally change the information we all get from AI. It wasn't some big algorithm update or new policy. It was just a decision made by Google to protect its data. So as we move forward into this new AI-powered internet, the real question is, who are the new gatekeepers of information, and do we even know who they are?